but the system was broken. The robots couldn't talk to each other, the battery module production was a disaster, and we were burning through cash like rocket fuel. I thought, we need to redesign this entire thing, so I literally moved into the factory. Not just visiting minus, sleeping there, working in every department, understanding every bottleneck. Because you can't fix a system you don't understand. The thing is, I schedule my days in 5-minute increments. People think that's obsessive, but if you don't have a system for your time, you're just hoping things work out. And hope is not a strategy. Systems are the boring routines that actually get results. They're the meal preps, the study schedules, the workout plans. They're what separate people who achieve from people who talk about achieving. I mean, when people ask me how SpaceX works, I tell them, we have systems for everything. How we test engines, how we integrate software, how we handle failures. Because in rockets, you don't get to wing it. The passing grade is 100%. So, what's your system?
Well, I'd like to thank you for listening to someone who's probably made more catastrophically bad decisions than most people you'll ever meet. You know, after you've had 3 rockets explode in a row, been kicked out of your own company while on what was supposed to be your honeymoon, and slept on factory floors for months straight, you start to realize something about this whole next year will be my year thing. I mean, I've been there. Well, this is it. Both SpaceX and Tesla are going to die. I had maybe 30, 40 million left, and I'm thinking, how do you choose which child gets to eat, that kind of thing. But here's the thing, and this might sound strange coming from someone who's been called everything from a genius to completely insane. Most people are waiting for some magical moment when everything aligns perfectly. I thought the same thing when I was young. So I thought I'd share what I learned from nearly losing everything, multiple times, because if there's one thing I've figured out, it's that waiting for the perfect moment is like waiting for a rocket to fix itself. It's not going to happen. I'm not here to motivate you. Motivation is like, well, it's like rocket fuel. Burns bright for a few minutes and you're back to the harsh reality of physics and engineering problems. I mean, if motivation worked, I wouldn't have needed to sleep under my desk at the Tesla factory. The thing about real change is, it requires you to do things that are uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. Like showering at the YMCA because you spent all your money on servers, or learning rocket science from books because no actual rocket scientists want to work for some crazy guy with a PayPal fortune. So, if you want the sugar-coated version, there are plenty of other talks. But if you want to know what it actually takes to force yourself to lock in for 2025, well, that's a different conversation entirely. Look, I know you've been trying, or at least you think you have. I mean, when I was young, I thought I was trying too. I'd read science fiction books and think, well, I'm preparing for the future, that kind of thing. But then reality hits you like a rocket exploding on the launch pad. When my brother Kimball and I started Zip2, we thought, we'll just rent a small office and figure this whole internet thing out. Sounds reasonable, right? The thing is, we ended up sleeping on the couch because we couldn't afford an apartment. We showered at the YMCA because, well, that's what you do when you're spending every dollar on keeping the servers running. I thought, this is temporary, we'll get some funding, hire some people, and everything will work out. But you know what? We had one computer. One. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week. All the time. I mean, I briefly had a girlfriend during that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. That's not exactly what you'd call work-life balance. But here's what I learned. Most people say they're trying, but they're really just, how do I put this? They're doing the equivalent of what I did with Mars missions initially. I thought, well, I'll just buy some Russian rockets and send mice to Mars. Easy, right? The thing about half-assing something is, it feels like you're making progress, but you're really just postponing the inevitable failure. It's like when people set vague goals like, I want to be better. Better at what? Breathing. You've been doing that since birth. So, I realized something fundamental. You can't wait for the world to align with your vision. The world doesn't care about your timeline or your comfort level. You have to align yourself with reality. When I wanted to start SpaceX, I tried to hire great rocket engineers. The good ones wouldn't join some crazy internet guy, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I thought, I guess I'll have to become the chief engineer myself. And that's exactly what I did. The thing is, if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you're going to be waiting forever. People say I don't have time. That's funny because when we were building Zip2, I had the same 24 hours as everyone else. The difference was, well, I wasn't spending 3 hours scrolling through whatever the equivalent of TikTok was back then. You know, if you do the simple math, and I mean really simple math, if somebody else is working 50 hours and you're working 100, you'll get twice as much done in the course of a year. I mean, that's just basic arithmetic. In 1 year, you will achieve what they achieve. You will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. The thing is, most people think working hard means staying late occasionally. But when I say work hard, I mean every waking hour. That's the thing I would say if you're particularly starting a company. So let me tell you what that actually looks like.
In 2008, when Tesla was bleeding money like crazy and we were within single-digit weeks of death, I was working 22 hours a day, 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. I worked everywhere: the paint shop, general assembly, body shop. Do you know why? Because if the team sees their leader sleeping under his desk during shift change, they know you're there. They know you're not off somewhere having a good time on a tropical island, which I could definitely have been doing and would much have preferred to do. But here's the thing about time. People say they don't have it, but then they'll rewatch the same show for the fourth time, because it's absolute cinema. I mean, you had time to stare at the ceiling thinking about how you have no time. The thing about today is, you can learn literally anything. When I needed to understand rocket science, there wasn't YouTube. I read books, lots of books, until I ran out of books to read at the school library and the neighborhood library. Then I started reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. Your phone, it's already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize this. The question is, are you using it to become superhuman, or are you letting it turn you into a passive consumer? So, when you say you don't have time, what you're really saying is, you haven't decided what's actually important enough to sacrifice. What goals are, well, they're like saying you want to go to Mars. Great, wonderful aspiration. But what's your propulsion system? What's your heat shield design? How are you going to land without creating a new crater? I mean, saying I want to save money is cute, but what's your plan? Are you tracking expenses, automating savings, or are you just hoping your bank account will surprise you like a physics exam on Monday? The thing about systems is, they're what make you show up when your third rocket explodes and everyone thinks you're completely insane. At SpaceX, we don't just say, let's build rockets. We break it down to first principles. What does a rocket actually need to do? How do we make it reusable? What are the fundamental physics constraints? So, during the Model 3 production ramp, we had goals, lots of goals, beautiful PowerPoint presentations with targets and timelines, but the system was broken. The robots couldn't talk to each other, the battery module production was a disaster, and we were burning through cash like rocket fuel. I thought, we need to redesign this entire thing, so I literally moved into the factory, not just visiting Minus, sleeping there, working in every department, understanding every bottleneck, because you can't fix a system you don't understand. The thing is, I schedule my days in 5-minute increments. People think that's obsessive, but if you don't have a system for your time, you're just hoping things work out. And hope is not a strategy. Systems are the boring routines that actually get results. They're the meal preps, the study schedules, the workout plans. They're what separate people who achieve from people who talk about achieving. I mean, when people ask me how SpaceX works, I tell them, we have systems for everything. How we test engines, how we integrate software, how we handle failures. Because in rockets, you don't get to wing it. The passing grade is 100%. So, what's your system? Because without one, you're just crossing your fingers and hoping physics doesn't apply to you. Most of what leads to success is, well, it's not exciting. It's not glamorous. It's getting kicked out of your own company and learning from it. It's waking up early to work out when you'd rather sleep. It's saying no to plans so you can study. It's putting in effort when no one's clapping for you. The thing about the grind is, it's not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel necessary. So, let me tell you about expensive education. When I got back from what was supposed to be my honeymoon, though it was really a business trip that ended with a stop in Sydney for the Olympics, I found out I'd been replaced as CEO of X.com. The board had basically staged a coup while I was on the plane. I thought, well, this is interesting. Here I am, the largest shareholder, the guy who came up with most of the business ideas, and I'm being told I'm not fit to run the company I created. That was tough going. But here's the thing. That failure taught me more about leadership and company dynamics than any business school ever could. It was like a very expensive MBA program, except instead of paying tuition, I lost control of my company. Then there's SpaceX. The first 3 launches failed. We barely scraped together enough parts and money for the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. I was literally picking up bits of rocket near the launch site after the first failure. It was a bit sad. I mean, people think failure is this terrible thing. But failure is just expensive education. And I got a very expensive education in rocket science, automotive manufacturing, and human psychology. The thing is, most people avoid the grind because they expect every step to be fun. But if you're doing something that's never been done before, it's going to be uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. During Tesla's production hell, I was sleeping under my desk in the factory, not because I had to, but because the team needed to see that their leader was there, grinding it out with them. When you're asking people to work impossible hours to solve impossible problems, you better be willing to do it yourself. So, embrace the grind, because the grind is where the magic happens. It's where you discover what you're actually capable of. You know, a lot of people talk about changing the world. I mean, I used to read about electric cars and space travel all the time. Science fiction novels, technical papers, whatever I could get my hands on. But here's the thing, reading about it and building it are very different things. When I started Tesla, everyone said electric cars were basically golf carts. Slow, ugly, short range, that kind of thing. So we built the Roadster, not because we had a perfect plan, but because sometimes you just have to build the thing to prove it can be done. I thought, well, we can show people on paper that electric cars can be fast and beautiful, but until you actually have the physical object and they can drive it, it doesn't really sink in for people. Everything looks great on PowerPoint. You can make anything work on PowerPoint. The thing about consumption versus creation, most people are consuming other people's dreams instead of building their own. They're watching success content, reading about entrepreneurs, following motivational accounts, but scrolling through success content isn't the same as actually taking action. I mean, when I wanted to understand how rockets work, I didn't just watch videos about rockets. I read textbooks, I talked to engineers, I learned the fundamental physics. Then I started building rockets and blowing them up, repeatedly. So, stop being a passive consumer of inspiration and start being an active participant in your own life. Because the world doesn't need another person who knows everything about success in theory. The world needs people who are willing to fail spectacularly while trying to build something that matters. The thing is, you can study entrepreneurship for years, but until you're sleeping on a couch and showering at the YMCA because you spent all your money on your company, you don't really understand what it takes. People talk about work-life balance, and I understand the appeal. I really do. But here's the thing. If you want to achieve something that's never been done before, the universe doesn't care about your balance. So, let me tell you about 2008. I had maybe $30 or $40 million left. That sounds like a lot, but when you're burning through cash trying to keep two companies alive, it goes fast. Really fast. I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, and the other company would definitely die. Or I could split it between the two companies, and maybe both would die. The thing is, when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, it's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I split the money between the two. I mean, I ended up borrowing money for rent from friends. Me, the guy who sold PayPal for hundreds of millions. Because when something's important enough, you don't hold back. People say you need balance, but what they really mean is, they want to keep one foot on the dock while trying to sail across the ocean. That kind of thing doesn't work. During the Model 3 production ramp, I wasn't thinking about balance. I was thinking about survival. Tesla was bleeding money like crazy, and if we didn't solve these problems in a very short period of time, we would die. So I worked 22 hours a day, 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. You ever worry about yourself imploding? Absolutely. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. People should not work this hard. It hurts my brain and my heart. But here's the thing. If something's important enough, then you do it even though the risk of failure is high. You can't half commit and expect full results. So, forget about balance. Focus on commitment. Because the world doesn't need another person who's perfectly balanced. It needs people who are willing to go all in on something that matters. So, am I really trying? That's the question I ask myself every day. And I mean, really trying. Not just going through the motions. I often find myself wondering, how did I get here? From sleeping on couches and showering at the YMCA, to, well, this. And the honest answer is, I'm not entirely sure. But I know it wasn't because I was perfectly balanced, or had everything figured out. The thing is, there's a difference between effort and consistent effort. One gets you short-term results, if that. The other transforms your life completely. I thought, well, when I look back at my biggest failures, getting kicked out of PayPal, nearly losing SpaceX and Tesla in 2008, the production hell with Model 3, the question isn't whether the world was against me. The question is, was I fully committed, or was I holding something back? I mean, I've made some spectacularly bad decisions. I asked someone to marry me after knowing them for a few days. I tried to buy Russian rockets by showing up and saying, I'd like 2 of your biggest rockets, but you can keep the nukes. That kind of thing. But here's what I learned. You can't half commit and then expect full results. It's like trying to get to orbit with half the fuel you need. The physics just doesn't work. When people ask me what separates those who succeed from those who don't, it's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not even having a great idea. It's the willingness to be brutally honest with yourself about whether you're actually trying or just pretending to try. The thing about self-deception is, it's very comfortable. You can convince yourself that you're doing everything possible while still keeping one foot in your comfort zone. So, be honest. Are you really trying? Or are you doing the equivalent of what I did early on, reading about rockets instead of building them? Because there's a massive difference between wanting something and being willing to sacrifice everything for it. I'm not saying you have to be as crazy as I am, but you do have to be honest about what you're actually willing to do. So, that's where things are. I think the overarching point is, you have a choice to make. And it's not the choice most people think it is. It's not about whether you're smart enough or talented enough or lucky enough. I mean, I got kicked out of my own company, had 3 rockets explode, and nearly went bankrupt multiple times. If I can figure it out, there's no reason you can't. The thing is, I won't tell you you've got this. You might not. I almost didn't. There were moments in 2008 when I thought, well, this is it. Both companies are going to die, and I'll be known as the guy who burned through hundreds of millions of dollars chasing impossible dreams. But here's what I learned. If you decide to really lock in, and I mean really lock in, not just say you're going to, if you're willing to sleep on couches and shower at the YMCA for your dream, if you're willing to work when everyone else is sleeping, if you're willing to keep going when your 3rd rocket explodes and everyone thinks you're insane, then 2025 can be your year. The world isn't going to fix itself. It's gray and colorless, and that sucks. But you're smart, you're strong, you're adaptable. And most importantly, you have something most people don't realize they have. The ability to choose what you're willing to sacrifice for. I mean, don't let anything hold you back.
The only thing standing between you and what you want to achieve is your willingness to do what it actually takes. Not what you think it takes, what it actually takes. So, are you in? Are you willing to align yourself with your goals instead of waiting for your goals to align with your comfort zone? Or are we going to have the same conversation next year, with you wondering why nothing changed? The choice is yours. You tell me. But remember, the future belongs to those who are willing to build it, not those who are waiting for someone else to hand it to them.